She was invisible for years until Bully made biggest mistake of his life. An inspiring story by Heartfelt Tales. The sound of Marcus hitting the gymnasium floor echoed through the stunned silence like a gunshot. One moment he had been laughing, his cruel voice cutting through the air as he taunted the quiet girl in the corner. The next, he was writhing on the polished wood, clutching his knee and screaming in agony. But this story isn't really about that moment of impact. It's about the journey that led Maya Chen from being invisible to finding the courage that had been hiding inside her all along. If this story moves you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more inspiring stories that remind us of the strength we all carry within. Maya had perfected the art of disappearing. At Jefferson High, she moved through hallways like a ghost, shoulders hunched, eyes fixed on her worn sneakers. She had learned that invisibility was safer than being seen, quieter than being heard. Her thick-rimmed glasses seemed to magnify not just her vision, but every flaw she believed she possessed. The other students saw her as the awkward girl who ate lunch alone, who never spoke unless called upon, who flinched whenever anyone approached too quickly. But Marcus Hendricks had a talent for spotting exactly the kind of person Maya was trying not to be. At 17, he stood 6 feet tall with the build of someone who had never known what it felt like to be powerless. His father owned 3 car dealerships in town, and Marcus wore that privilege like armor. He had been making Maya's life miserable since freshman year, but lately, his attention had intensified. It started small, as these things often do. Knocking her books from her hands in the hallway. Accidentally bumping into her at her locker. Loud comments about her appearance that made other students snicker and look away. Maya's parents, Dr. and Mrs. Chen, were both physicians who worked long hours at the county hospital. They loved their daughter deeply, but they were often too exhausted to notice the subtle signs of her daily torment. Maya's only refuge was the small martial arts studio where she had been training since she was 8 years old. Master Lu, a soft-spoken man in his 60s, had become more than an instructor to Maya. He was the grandfather she had never known, the one person who seemed to truly see her. Under his patient guidance, Maya had earned her black belt 2 years ago, though she kept this achievement hidden from everyone at school. The strongest person, Master Lu would often tell her as they practiced forms in the quiet studio, is not the one who shows their strength, but the one who chooses when to use it. Maya carried these words with her, but as Marcus's bullying escalated, she began to wonder if there would ever be a right time to stand up for herself. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in March, when spring was just beginning to warm the air but winter still clung to the shadows. Maya was sitting alone in the cafeteria, picking at her sandwich and trying to finish her calculus homework, when Marcus approached with his usual entourage. The cafeteria buzz continued around them, but Maya felt the familiar chill of impending humiliation. "Hey, Kung Fu Panda," Marcus said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. The nickname had stuck since someone had seen Maya's martial arts trophies through her bedroom window during a house party at her neighbor's. "I heard you think you're some kind of fighter." Maya's hand tightened around her pencil, but she didn't look up. This was her strategy: ignore him, wait for him to get bored, hope he would move on to easier prey. But Marcus wasn't finished. He reached down and swept her homework off the table, sending papers fluttering to the floor like wounded birds. "I'm talking to you, freak." The cafeteria had gone quiet now. Maya could feel dozens of eyes on her, could hear the soft whispers of students pulling out phones to record whatever was about to happen. Her face burned with shame and anger, but still she knelt to gather her scattered papers. "You know what?" Marcus said, his voice taking on a theatrical quality as he played to his audience. "I bet all those karate lessons were a waste of money. I bet you couldn't fight your way out of a paper bag." Maya stood slowly, clutching her crumpled homework. She could feel something shifting inside her, like tectonic plates preparing to move after years of building pressure. "Come on then," Marcus continued, spreading his arms wide. "Show everyone what you've got. Hit me. I dare you." The crowd had grown larger now. Maya could see some students looking uncomfortable, but no one stepped forward to intervene. This was the moment she had dreaded and somehow always known would come. "What's wrong?" Marcus taunted, stepping closer. "Scared? I knew you were all talk. Just another weak little." "I'm not going to fight you, Marcus." Maya's voice was quiet but clear, cutting through his tirade. Marcus laughed, a harsh sound that echoed off the cafeteria walls. "Of course you won't. Because you're nothing. You're invisible. You don't matter." Those words hit Maya like physical blows. They were the same words she had been telling herself for years, the same fears that kept her small and silent. But hearing them spoken aloud by someone else crystallized something inside her. "You're right," Maya said, and Marcus's laughter faltered slightly at her unexpected response. "I have been invisible. I have been quiet. But that doesn't mean I'm weak." She set her homework on the table with deliberate care. "And I do matter." Marcus's face darkened. He wasn't used to his victims talking back, wasn't prepared for Maya's calm demeanor. "You little," he started, raising his hand as if to strike her. Maya didn't flinch. Years of training had taught her to read body language, to anticipate movement before it happened. She saw the telegraphed aggression in Marcus's shoulders, the shift in his weight. "Don't," she said simply. But Marcus was committed now, his reputation on the line in front of half the school. He lunged forward, not with any real skill but with the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences. Maya moved with liquid grace, stepping aside and extending her leg in a precise sweep that caught Marcus just behind his knee. The technique was simple, one of the first she had learned, but executed with perfect timing and placement. Marcus's own momentum worked against him, sending him crashing to the floor with a sickening pop as his knee twisted beyond its natural range. The scream that tore from Marcus's throat was raw and primal, cutting through the cafeteria like a siren. Maya stood over him, not in triumph but in a kind of sad recognition. She felt no joy in his pain, only a deep weariness at how it had come to this. "I didn't want this," she said, her voice barely audible over Marcus's continued screams. "I never wanted any of this." The aftermath was swift and complicated. Paramedics were called, statements were taken, and video evidence from multiple phones told the story clearly. Marcus had been the aggressor, and Maya had defended herself. The school administration, faced with years of documented complaints about Marcus's behavior that they had failed to address, found themselves in an impossible position. Marcus's knee required surgery and months of physical therapy. His athletic scholarships evaporated, along with his status as the untouchable golden boy. Maya faced a suspension that was quickly overturned when the full extent of the bullying came to light, revealed by students who finally felt safe to speak up. The change in Maya wasn't immediate or dramatic. She didn't suddenly become the most popular girl in school or transform into someone she wasn't. But something fundamental had shifted. She walked taller, spoke up in class, and ate her lunch without constantly looking over her shoulder. More importantly, she began to use her voice for others. When she saw a freshman being picked on, she intervened. When she witnessed injustice, she spoke up. She started a self-defense club at school, teaching other students not just physical techniques but the confidence to stand up for themselves and others. Master Lu watched these changes with quiet pride during their training sessions. "You understand now," he told her one evening as they practiced forms in the golden light filtering through the studio windows. "True strength isn't about hurting others. It's about protecting what matters, including yourself." Maya nodded, understanding the lesson in a way she never had before. "I wish it hadn't taken so long for me to learn that." "Every person's journey is different," Master Lu replied. "What matters is that you found your way." The lawsuit from Marcus's family was dropped when their lawyer advised them that pursuing someone who had clearly acted in self-defense against their documented bully of a son would likely backfire in court. Marcus himself, after months of reflection and therapy, eventually approached Maya with a halting apology. It wasn't eloquent or complete, but it was genuine, and Maya accepted it with the same grace she had shown that day in the cafeteria. Years later, Maya would look back on that moment not as the day she hurt someone, but as the day she finally learned to value herself. She went on to study social work in college, specializing in helping young people who faced the same struggles she had endured. The quiet girl who had once tried to disappear became a voice for those who felt voiceless. The scar on Marcus's knee faded, but the lessons learned by everyone involved lasted much longer. The school implemented new anti-bullying policies, students began speaking up more readily when they witnessed harassment, and the culture slowly began to shift towards something healthier. Maya's story spread beyond Jefferson High, becoming an example of what can happen when someone finds the courage to stand up, not just for themselves, but for the principle that every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. She never glorified violence, always emphasizing that physical confrontation should be a last resort. But she also never apologized for defending herself when all other options had been exhausted. The most powerful lesson Maya learned wasn't about martial arts or self-defense. It was about the voice she had always possessed but had been too afraid to use. That voice didn't need to be loud or aggressive to be effective. It just needed to be true. Standing up to Marcus didn't make Maya's life perfect, but it gave her something she had been missing for years, the knowledge that she mattered, that her feelings were valid, and that she had the right to take up space in the world. These realizations became the foundation for everything else she accomplished. Maya's journey reminds us that strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it's the quiet endurance of daily hardships. Sometimes it's the courage to speak truth in the face of opposition. And sometimes, when all else fails, it's the willingness to defend yourself and others against those who would cause harm. Her story teaches us that we all have the power to change our circumstances, even when it feels impossible. It shows us that being kind doesn't mean being weak, that being quiet doesn't mean being powerless, and that sometimes the people who seem the most vulnerable are actually the strongest of all. But perhaps most importantly, Maya's story reminds us that our past doesn't define our future. The girl who once tried to disappear became a beacon for others navigating their own darkness. The moment when she finally stood up wasn't just about stopping a bully, it was about finding herself. In the end, the day Maya snapped Marcus's knee wasn't really about violence at all. It was about a young woman finally realizing that she deserved better, that she had always deserved better, and that she had the power to make that truth a reality. If Maya's story has touched your heart, please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever found the courage to stand up for yourself or others? What gave you that strength? Your story might inspire someone else who needs to hear it. And if you believe in the power of stories to change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear Maya's message, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more inspiring stories about ordinary people discovering their extraordinary strength. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a tale that might change your perspective or give you hope when you need it most. Remember, like Maya learned, you matter. Your voice matters. And sometimes, standing up for yourself is the most important thing you can do, not just for you, but for everyone who comes after you.